On a lonely winter road, somewhere between the glow of a town and the silence of the mountains, there is a story almost too touching to believe. It begins with one woman, a storm, and 15 bikers who had no place to go. If you stay with me to the very end, you'll see why hundreds of strangers came riding through the snow just to honor her kindness, and why this story still lingers in the hearts of everyone who hears it. The snow came down hard that night, thick and heavy, swallowing the roads in white. A group of bikers, tough leather jackets weighed down with frost, struggled to keep their wheels steady on the icy pavement. They were returning from a charity ride, caught off guard by a sudden storm. The temperature was dropping fast, their hands numb on the handlebars, visibility close to zero. Their engines growled in protest, but even machines have limits. One by one, the riders began pulling over, headlights flickering dimly through the blizzard, until they realized they were stranded. 15 men and women, shivering, tired, and more than a little scared, huddled together by the roadside. That's when they saw a small light in the distance. It was a porch lamp, glowing warm against the storm, coming from a weathered farmhouse just beyond the trees. Desperate, the bikers trudged through knee-deep snow until they reached the door. They hesitated, knowing their appearance, tattoos, leather, steel chains, and weary faces might frighten anyone on the other side. But with no other choice, one of them knocked. The door opened to reveal a kind old lady in her 70s. Her hair was silver, pulled neatly into a bun, her sweater soft and handmade, her eyes gentle but sharp with wisdom. For a moment, she studied the group standing on her porch. The bikers braced for rejection. Instead, she smiled. "You poor souls," she said, her voice steady and warm. "Come in before you freeze to death." Inside, the air smelled of baked bread and wood smoke. The bikers filed in, stomping snow from their boots, their breath still fogging the room. The lady, who introduced herself simply as Margaret, ushered them to sit by the fire. She brought blankets, hot cocoa, and even soup from the pot simmering on the stove. It was a modest home, but every corner radiated care. The bikers, who were used to suspicion and judgment from strangers, felt something rare that night: acceptance. One of them, a tall man named Dave, whispered to another, "Can you believe this? We must look like trouble, and she just welcomed us." Margaret overheard and chuckled. "I see 15 people in need. That's all I need to know." The night passed with laughter and stories. The bikers, softened by her kindness, opened up about their lives. Some had struggled with the law, some with broken families, some with loneliness. Margaret listened, nodding, offering wisdom like only a grandmother could. She told them about her late husband, a mechanic who had loved motorcycles, and how the sound of engines had always reminded her of freedom. To her, these bikers weren't strangers, they were family she hadn't met yet. By morning, the storm had calmed. The bikers stepped outside to see the roads blanketed in white, the world silent except for the creak of trees in the cold. They gathered their things, thanked Margaret again and again, and promised to repay her kindness someday. She just smiled, waving as they rode off into the pale winter sun. But that wasn't the end of it. The next morning, Margaret was stirring oatmeal when she heard a low rumble outside. She peeked through her curtain and froze. At first, she thought the storm had returned. But it wasn't thunder. It was the sound of engines. Dozens of them. She opened her front door, and her jaw dropped. Lined up in front of her little farmhouse were not 15 bikes, but close to 100, gleaming chrome and steel shining against the snow. Word had spread overnight. The 15 riders she had sheltered told their brothers, their friends, their whole biker community. And now, nearly 100 riders had come to thank her. The sight was overwhelming: row after row of motorcycles parked neatly, their riders standing tall, waiting quietly, not wanting to frighten her, but eager to show respect. Margaret's eyes filled with tears as the leader stepped forward. "Ma'am, you opened your home when we needed it most. We'll never forget that. So today, we're here for you. Whatever you need, repairs, groceries, firewood, company, you name it, we'll make sure you're never alone again." For a woman who had spent many winters in solitude, the moment was almost too much to bear. She wiped her cheeks, smiling through tears, and said softly, "I gave you a roof for a night. And in return, you've given me a family." The bikers roared their engines in salute, the sound echoing across the valley like thunder made of gratitude. From that day on, Margaret's little farmhouse was never empty. Riders stopped by year-round, sometimes to bring food, sometimes just to share stories, sometimes just to make sure the porch light she had once left on for strangers would always stay lit for friends, and so the story of one stormy night grew into a legend of kindness, proving that sometimes, the toughest-looking hearts carry the deepest gratitude, and that one act of compassion can ripple out into 100 engines of love.